Hi there, I'm your host, Mr. Doyle, and this is a great undertaking. Richard Bachman and Stephen King, while residing within the same mind, are very different authors. During the years that the first few Bachman books were published, King was focused on writing about the supernatural, monsters, ghouls, demons, and otherworldly forces. But Bachman wasn't interested in such things. While King was busy establishing himself as a horror icon, Bachman was more interested in writing about real-world issues such as authoritarianism, gun violence, dystopian futures, and class consciousness. A lot of King readers have a hard time finding the same enjoyment they get from books like Carrie, Salem's Lot, and Cujo while reading Bachman, and that's understandable. The subject matter, themes, and characters that the two authors tackle are vastly different. Personally, I enjoy the horror, suspense, and dread that King crafts into his stories. I suppose that is a bit obvious considering, but as someone who is perhaps a little too plugged into current political news, world events, and the state of everything, I appreciate the Bachman books as well, and The Running Man is no exception. These days, it's not uncommon for the term Orwellian to be thrown around like candy from a parade float, so I was hesitant to draw any direct comparisons, but to be fair, there are a handful of similarities between The Running Man and 1984. That being said, The Running Man, while sharing some themes with Orwell's story, is a decidedly distinct dystopia from that of 1984. In fact, Bachman uses themes and topics from his earlier novel, The Long Walk, explicitly throughout The Running Man as well. In my video for The Long Walk, I compared the events of the book to gladiatorial combat of ancient Rome and how the walk was used as a means of satiating the masses. Check that video out after this one, as some of the content in that video is relevant to The Running Man as well. Link down yonder. More importantly, as he seems to do in all of the Bachman books, King, or rather Richard Bachman, predicts and foresees some very real situations and circumstances that have come to fruition in the time since he wrote The Running Man. Media manipulation, controlling the narrative. There is a concerted effort by the powers that be in The Running Man to craft public opinion by way of regulating, editing, and curating media and entertainment. Citizens are told who to fear, who to blame, and what to believe. The truth is smothered beneath layers of confirmation bias, fear of the other, and purposeful misinformation campaigns. The network, which appears to be the ruling political party, has consolidated all media output and maintains control over messaging and popular opinion by utilizing what is known as freebie to distribute and disperse their narratives to every home in the country. The network has mandated that every residence must have a freebie in it, and it is through this medium, this invaluable propaganda tool, that they maintain an obedient, dutiful citizenry. This sure doesn't sound familiar at all. Nope, doesn't ring any bells. I can't possibly draw any parallels or relevant comparisons to the real world. Just kidding, but you likely already knew that. In 2004, there were 100 corporations controlling media outlets in the United States. But as of September of 2020, 6 corporations now control 90% of media outlets in the United States. They are AT&T, CBS, Comcast, Disney, News Corp, and Viacom. In an interview with The Monitor magazine in July of 2021, Con Hallinan, a columnist with Foreign Policy in Focus, a project of the Washington, D.C.-based Institute for Policy Studies, stated, quote, "People read what those 6 corporations want them to read, and corporations like lower taxes, fewer financial and environmental regulations. In short, whatever makes them the most money. Since profits are the bottom line, staffs are cut back, papers are merged, and stories are dumbed down to not upset anyone. So fewer papers, fewer reporters, tighter budgets, which means no investigative reporting, and a less informed population. Because democracy only works when people are informed enough to make choices. Democracy is diminished, unquote. This sort of concentration of power and control of information is a product of neoliberal deregulation policies. Critics of media deregulation and the resulting concentration of ownership fear that the ultimate consequence of consolidation is a poorly informed public restricted to a reduced array of media options that offer only information that does not harm the media oligopoly's growing range of interests. Kinda like how the richest man in the world, in the history of the world, owns the Washington Post. Did you ever hear about the time the Washington Post ran 16 negative articles and editorials about Bernie Sanders in 16 hours? I wonder why they would be compelled to do something like that. Certainly not because Bernie was openly criticizing Bezos and Amazon's treatment of employees. I'm sure that Bezos, whose current net worth is a paltry $201 billion at the time of recording, wouldn't have any reason to attack the man who repeatedly stated that billionaires should not exist. I'm sure that the whole 16 negative articles in 16 hours thing was purely coincidental and not at all a coordinated smear campaign designed to prevent Sanders from winning the Democratic primary. There's a link in the description outlining the whole thing for anyone who wants to slam dance naked in frustration and disappointment. Anyway, here's Wonderwall. 'Cause maybe Bachman is a radical leftist. In The Running Man, the poor and lower class can't afford medication, they can't feed their families. The pollution in the air created by unregulated industry is slowly killing the planet and impacting the health of the penniless. Life-saving resources available to the affluent, wealthy elite are unattainable to the impoverished. The poorest, most desperate citizens are forced into extreme and dire circumstances in order to attempt to provide for themselves and for their families. But rather than growing increasingly resentful of the well-off who have beaten them into submission, media propaganda is used as a tool to prevent the downtrodden from rising up against their prosperous oppressors and to focus their outrage on one of their own. Bachman recognizes the potential oncoming systemic oppression and inequality on the horizon and calls it out. It's not even a thinly veiled criticism, it's center stage. The plight of the poor and working class is at the heart of the story, and it is this unattainable dream, this impossible act of pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, that Bachman exposes as just that, an impossible act for those born into generational poverty where educational, employment, and growth opportunities are more often than not beyond reach by any reasonable means. The cycle cannot be broken, barring a miracle. And those at the top of the ladder not only want it that way, they have designed it that way. A deliberate, perpetual, capitalist-fulfilled prophecy. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Good Lord, Bachman, my dude, you are killing me. You're pushing all of my radical left reactionary buttons. I'm so triggered. My levels of SJW snowflakery are off the friggin' Richter scale right now. Inadequate healthcare systems, food insecurity, climate crisis, unregulated capitalism and its inevitable effects, class division, people forced into compromising positions in order to survive. It's all painfully relevant and arguably has been since before The Running Man was even written. But the reality of these inequalities and inequities have only been exacerbated in recent years. The book was published back in 1982. Do you know what year The Running Man takes place? 2025. Bachman, bruh. Do you have a time machine or something? Are you clairvoyant? I didn't even touch on every theme or topic on display in The Running Man, just in the interest of leaving some meat on the bone for anyone who hasn't read the book, and to not further influence your interpretation of the text with my personal political bent. So I'm just not going to dig any deeper. Oops, I got political again. Alright, so I promise that my political biases and ideology aren't always on full display in my videos, and I'm sorry if it's a turnoff for you. You likely didn't come to check out a Stephen King channel or video expecting to get beaten over the head with billionaires bad and Medicare for all good and climate catastrophe should maybe be avoided if possible, perhaps. You know, woke lefty shit. But it's these damn Bachman books. They bring it out of me. But it's all true. The world is a terrible place, and we are all going to burn or drown while the 1% fly off into space to colonize Mars, enslave the aliens, and wipe their asses with their surplus of useless American currency or whatever. Next week, I'll be taking a look at the 1987 movie adaptation of The Running Man. It's most likely a terrible movie that is nothing like the book, and I'm certain that I am going to hate it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my mom's basement to troll noobs on Roblox and ineffectually debate my far-right conservative uncle about critical race theory on Facebook. Final thoughts. Be sure to click like and subscribe to the channel for my continued analysis of all things Stephen King, pretty please with blood and guts on top. My name is Mr. Doyle, and this has been a great undertaking.